see you in the air when I make you backflip.
Select and make your first pick. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Choose and pick the best one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Select and make your first pick.
You're probably wondering who I am and why you should continue watching this. Well, I'm an ex-Gamestop employee who really sucks at Photoshop, and I'm here to save you money. How am I going to do that? Simple, by showing you why you should never do business with GameStop. If you've never seen a GameStop before, they're a store that specializes in selling used games. Lately, they've been spreading like syphilis at a frat house, and I personally like to put a stop to that. There are a lot of people like me who highly dislike GameStop, but you can't truly hate the company until you actually work there. Only until you've been in the trenches can you truly know how badly they're ripping people off. Fortunately, the overpaid corporate halfwits got the bright idea to give away their core business model on the back of the employee name tags. There are 4 core parts of the GameStop circle of life: reservations, trades, used sales, and subscriptions. Despite the fact that reservations are at the top center of the card, it's not the crux of GameStop's profits. I found it used to be a common misconception in the gaming news media that GameStop's lifeblood was in reservations. The heart of GameStop's operation is actually in the buying and selling of used games. So I figured I'd get to the point and attack GameStop there first in case you forgot to pop your villain today or my complete lack of artistic ability causes your eyes to bleed. Before I continue, let me point out the fact that this series is not meant for the wee ones. At times I swear like a sailor getting his genitals sauteed, and I make more than one reference to people having unpleasant things happen to their rectums. For kids with no parents in the room, you already know when there's something you're not supposed to watch is something cool like people being sliced in half or boobies. Any warning not to watch it is just going to make you want to watch it more, so at least don't be stupid and keep the volume down. Oh yeah, and all of you are probably going to want to full screen this because it wasn't until I did 3,000 plus frames that I realized the text was hard to read on YouTube sized videos. If you've ever walked into a GameStop before and took a good look around, you would have noticed that most of their stock consisted of used games and accessories. Somewhere along the line, GameStop realized it could make more money by buying than selling used games that could be sold for less than new and add more to the bottom line. If you're a loyal edge card carrying GameStop shopper, you probably think I'm full of crap for hating on GameStop. You say that their used stock allows you to buy games for less, which at the end of the day saves you money. I'll concede that buying used games is a good way to save money, but when it comes to used games, GameStop is below the bottom of the barrel. By typing Grand Theft Auto 4 used PS3 into Google, I found an eBay auction with it going for $38, including shipping, when GameStop had it going for $55. Of course, you have to be careful when shopping on eBay because there are douchebags who will scam you if you're not careful. Always make sure to buy from reputable sellers and know a scam when you see it. Honestly though, if you're dumb enough to pay a claim history for a lottery you won in Nigeria, I have a nice DVD rewinder you might be interested in. Along with online auction sites like eBay, there's sites like the minimally designed Craigslist. Craigslist allows people to post want ads for whatever they have to offer. They have ads for just about everything from video games to people that want to be spanked. A quick search showed that people were willing to sell Grand Theft Auto 4 for $35. If you're paranoid about getting scammed by random sellers on the net, Amazon's less random featured sellers also came up and they had it going for $34. The most expensive of the new selection was still less than GameStop's used price. So this 2-minute Google search shows that buying used is a great way to save money, just as long as you don't do it at GameStop. For the veterans of the internet among you, everything I just said can best be replied with no shit Sherlock, but working at GameStop you find just how oblivious people are to the wonderful world of internet shopping. The average person either just uses it for email or is a 17-year-old MySpace addict who have a seizure she goes 90 seconds without checking her comments. If all you do is hop from store to store, you're missing out on quite a bit. By shopping online, you can instantly browse and compare tons of locations to get what you want. Even places that you think strictly as brick and mortar like Best Buy will have exclusive deals on their website that you sometimes can't get in their store. If you're one of those people that still hasn't caught on to the internet marketplace, you should start looking into doing more of your shopping there because just using the internet for procrastinating at work is actually costing you money. You say you don't like to shop online and prefer to shop in person. If you're going the brick and mortar route, there's still better options than GameStop. Hollywood Video's baby brother Game Crazy also does the used game thing, and I found they have Grand Theft Auto 4 for the same price. You may say Game Crazy basically has a copy-pasted version of the GameStop model, but there's at least one bullshit practice I've never seen them do. You see, when GameStop notices that demand goes up for an old game, they decide to be a dick about it and raise the price. Game Crazy still had it $10, so keep this in mind if you're looking for some games you can't find new anymore. I went to a nearby play and trade and again found it for pretty much the same price. But I found something else I'd never seen at a GameStop before. The display copies had shrink wrap on them, so the last copy in the store wasn't sticky with kid germs. The used games actually had some sort of box art on them. A used copy of Silent Hill 2 caught my attention. When I saw the disc, it looked like it would actually play. I saw the same game at GameStop for $5 more and without the case and booklet. GameStop's competitors, while smaller, actually seem to put in an effort to make sure that their product doesn't look like ass. And then there's, well, what else is there really? Instead of competing, GameStop realized they could wave around the big sacks of cash and buy out anybody that goes against them. Since they're the only game in town now, they can do whatever they want, even sell used games for more than what they cost when they came out. When you really think about it, the difference in price between new and used games at GameStop is really quite laughable. But the people who buy used games at GameStop don't get ripped off as badly as the poor saps who sell these games at GameStop. For those of you who have traded, actually the word trade is an inaccurate term because trade implies that you're giving something for something equal in exchange. The deceptive use of the word trade seems to work because I've actually had times where kids have given me the games they bought ages ago and expected me to give them brand new games in return. Of course, people who have sold their games at GameStop know that trades are as equal as trading protection in exchange for your manflower. The way it works is you give your games to GameStop and each game has a set value. If you're lucky, you'll get about half of what you paid for your game. I never found out who set GameStop's bullshit trade prices that somehow managed to amaze me even after working there for months, but I had a feeling when Scrooge McDuck with an elephant tusk lodged in his ass. Once GameStop has your game, they'll sell it back for about double of what you sold it to them for. It always amazes me that people willingly piss away their money like this. I once saw a kid trading a sealed copy of SmackDown vs. Raw 07 and he got as a gift for $25 credit the week it came out. Before he even left the store, the game got sold to the next person in line for $55 cash. As bad as these prices sound, they're considered ideal conditions by GameStop standards and probably the most you'll get for your game. These are the prices you would get if you bought a game the day it came out and sold it back to them before you even left the store. If you have sports games to trade in, expect to get even less, even though GameStop will charge the same as with any other game. If you want to trade in last year's version, don't expect to get enough to get yourself a Happy Meal. Although, to be fair, it also has to do with the fact that EA sells the same game every year and will continue doing so as long as people are willing to pay $60 for it. It's a similar situation with games based off movies and TV shows, which are either designed to be glorified advertisements or just capitalize on the popularity of existing franchises. Not to mention the fact that they almost always suck considerable amounts of ass. You can also expect to get less for your games if you have the gall to actually take time to play them. At the time I pasted this together, BioShock hasn't even been out for 6 months. BioShock has won numerous awards and it's a game you expect to get a decent trade value out of, but because you decided to keep it for more than 2 minutes, GameStop has already cut the amount of credit down to $20. At least GameStop was kind enough to also cut the price from $55 to $50. Believe it or not, the trade values get worse when you trade in a system. On current gen systems, GameStop will give you $160 for a Wii, $115 for a 360, and $270 for a PS3. Then they'll mark up a used Wii to $230, a used 360 to $220, and a used PS3 to $450. Here's the kicker. When they resell a used 360 or a Wii, they don't even sell the complete package. A little trick GameStop likes to pull when they take in a used 360 is they take in the system and hard drive separately and sell them back individually to maximize profits. Then when you buy a used Wii, they sell the system without Wii Sports. If you were to buy a used copy of Wii Sports with your console to complete the package, the difference in price between new and used would only be $10. They do this shit with game bundles too. If you were to trade in the Hitman trilogy, they would take it in as 3 individual games, which when purchased together, used cost more than buying the trilogy new. What makes this even more insane is the fact that these values aren't for actual cash, but for store credit. It's a pretty clever system really. By giving you store credit, you have to spend the money at GameStop, so they never really lose the money they give to you. If you want something you use for goods and services, which is what money is supposed to be used for, you'll get 20% off their already crap trade values. This means a Wii goes down to $128, a used 360 goes down to $92, and a used PS3 goes to $216. Another trick GameStop likes to pull is flat pricing on every SKU. If you bring in a sealed game, you'll get the same amount of credit as somebody who threw away the case and used the disc to trial cement. They use flat pricing for selling games too, and having to shell out $55 for a game that doesn't even have a case of booklet is a kick in the balls. They also use this method of fleecing with their new games too. As many of you already know, GameStop likes to sell open games as new. Due to flat pricing on SKUs, just as long as it's never been played in a console, you'll have to pay $60 for GTA 4 even if it's been dipped in Rosie O'Donnell's menstrual blood. When you have a business model designed to rip people off to maximize profits, your company is going to make a lot of money, which is why GameStop has exploded over the past 3 years. This is all because GameStop turned their stores into a bunch of upscale pawn shops, as the guys at Penny Arcade like to call them, but the term upscale pawn shop is really pushing it. I've lost track of how many times I was labeling games when the smell of weed rolls in. That's the smell of people wanting cash for their games. This brings me to the quality of GameStop's used products. Those of you that have tried to buy a new game at GameStop probably had the employee try to sell you a used copy of the game instead. They usually pitch it saying it's less than a new copy and that you have 1 week to return it for a refund. There's 3 reasons this happens. First off, you already know that GameStop buys their games at nasal rate prices, so they make more money off the used game. In fact, whenever we scan a new game and the computer sees that we have a used copy in our inventory, it tells us to sell the customer the used game instead. Secondly, employees are rated how much used product they show, and it looks bad on their numbers for an employee to sell new games. If you honestly think the employee gives a flying shit if you save $2 on a game, you must be one of those people that believed in Santa when they were 14. Lastly, the 1 week return policy saves GameStop money. This seems counterintuitive because you think all those people returning games because they suck would cost GameStop a lot of money. That's not much of an issue because people willingly waste their money on crap all the time. If the average person had decent taste in games, 50-cent Bulletproof would never have made greatest hits. The 7-day return policy saves GameStop a boatload of money because they don't have to pay anybody to test the games they buy off people. See, there would be times where I'd walk into the store and there'd literally be a stack of 50 games with no case for us to process. If the store was dead for the rest of the night, the 2 people working the shift would be able to create a case, label, and file each game by the end of the night if we were lucky. There's never any time to test the games, and instead of hiring a dedicated tester, GameStop makes you test the games. GameStop's policy is if a used game doesn't work, they allow you to swap it for another copy. This sounds great in theory, but in practice it ultimately just wastes people's time. A customer once came in to buy a used copy of MLB Slugfest only to come back 30 minutes later to return it as defective, and then come back to return that copy, and then once more just to get a refund. I once had a lady come back 3 times in one day to return a defective PS2. It got to the point where she wouldn't leave the store unless we tested the next system that we gave to her. Fortunately, the 4th time was a charm. But during my very next fucking shift, I had a guy come back with a defective system, and the next 3 replacements I went to get were also defective. The system they were returning wouldn't read games. The first one I got from the back didn't even have a controller. The